I'm not going to freak out about draft positioning because if the Titans really want to turn things around, they need to pick better, a lot more than they need better picks. I'll explain on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. On today's show, I'm going to tell you why I'm not freaking out about draft position, because the Titans need to pick better a lot more than they need better picks, and I'll explain what that means. Also, I'm going to tell you exactly what the Tennessee Titans did to shut down Myles Garrett. Got to give credit where it's due. A great offensive game plan for the Titans, and we got to talk about some of the standouts on defense, because after going through the tape, some of the guys on defense like Kevin Winston, Marcus Harrison, Jeffery Simmons played even better than what I thought they did watching the game on TV. Now, before we get into all of that, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. We got a coaching search right around the corner. Last 4 games of the year. Make sure you stay locked in with the Locked On Titans podcast. But with that being said, again, I know that it sounds a little funny, but think about it. If the Tennessee Titans really want to turn things around, what's more important is that they pick better in the draft rather than they have better draft picks, because we have seen the Tennessee Titans over the last couple of years. We have seen the Tennessee Titans since what? 2019, the best draft class that we've seen for this franchise. Since 2019, the drafts have been bad. That's just the reality. We have seen over the last couple of years, getting Ran Carthon in there, now Mike Borgonzi, we've seen a little bit of an uptick. You get a Peter Skoronski, a Tajay Spears, a Chikakonkwo. You get Cam Ward in the draft class that Borgonzi has put together. Tavondre Sweat has played well. Cedric Gray has played well. There are guys sprinkled in there that have helped over the last couple of years, but of course, 2020 to 2022 was just a wasteland at the end of the day. So I use that as an example of, just because the Titans get better picks, if they wouldn't have won against the Cleveland Browns and they lose the game and they lose out the rest of the way and they play terrible and they get the number 1 pick and they get a trade down and they do all this stuff that admittedly would be an ideal path. If they do all of that, that doesn't mean that they're instantly going to get better, because if they don't hit on the picks, if Mike Borgonzi isn't the guy to make the right picks and actually take advantage of what they have, then none of it is going to matter anyways. Now, look, of course it would help. And after Mike Borgonzi's 2025 draft class that looks pretty good, in my opinion, after the class that he just gave us here, it's fair to say, hey, I want Mike Borgonzi to get as many bites at the apple as possible. I want Mike Borgonzi to get as many swings as possible. And yes, a trade back from number 1 would be ideal. That would help the team. But that's not the only way to do it. Every good team in the NFL didn't start with a trade back scenario. And I think that even if the Titans don't get the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick could still give them a great opportunity to trade back. Look what the Browns got in a trade from the Jags to trade back from 2 to 5 last year. That would be a perfect trade for the Tennessee Titans. Also, I think there's a chance there's more than 1 quarterback. And if a team like, let's say, the Raiders are a team that between the Raiders and the Giants, who are the 2-win teams for the Titans that they're battling with for draft pick contention right now. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Giants don't. So the Giants, if they get the number 1 pick, they're more likely to get a big trade up to get the first quarterback off the board. The Raiders, they need a quarterback. They're probably not going to take a quarterback, or they probably would take a quarterback at number 1, which means if the Titans are at number 2, then they still would be the very first team in line to get a trade-up package to get a quarterback, which is valuable, or get the number one player on the board that isn't a quarterback, which is still a valuable position to be in, which we just saw in this draft. So even if it's Fernando Mendoza and the other two guys, Moore and Simpson, either aren't worth the number 2 pick or don't come out or whatever, the Titans still have the number 1 position player on the board. And right now you got Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, a couple other guys that could be in the mix by the time that we actually get there. There's no dominant Myles Garrett type pick there. So the Titans are in a great position to accept a trade back, still get a good haul, even if they don't get the number 1 overall pick. And let me remind you something very important. The Raiders and the Giants play each other later this year. So if the Titans were to lose out the rest of their games, they at minimum would get the number 2 pick, which is why I'm not going to panic over draft positioning for all these different reasons. Number one, as I said, that is not the only path. That's not the only way to do this. It's not how every great team built their roster. And what's more important for the Titans is for Mike Borgonzi to actually hit on these picks. We need Mike Borgonzi to be good. And it's not just about the number 1 overall pick that you have. If the Titans are number 2 or number 3 and tied, whatever, they could still get the number 1 pick in the second round, like the Titans didn't get the number 1 pick in every round last year. You got to share that when you tie records. It's just the tiebreaker for the very first pick in the draft is the strength of schedule if you tie your records. And the Titans right now have the toughest strength of schedule in the NFL, and that's the number 1 tiebreaker. So the Titans, in theory, their strength of schedule could go down in rating if teams that they've played, like the Jags, the Texans, the Colts, lose games, other teams they played like the Broncos, the Patriots. If some of these really, really good teams that weren't expected to be good lose some games down the stretch, then the Titans' strength of schedule will get worse, and that helps them in draft positioning, but you can't count on that, and it doesn't move very much. So the reality here is the Titans just have to hit on their picks, because whether they have 1 million picks or 3 picks or whatever, if they don't hit on them like they have been doing for the last 6 years, then it's not going to matter. So I am not going to be overly concerned and freaked out about draft positioning, when in reality, what really matters is the Titans having a good general manager and Mike Borgonzi and him hitting on those picks. And whether or not, like the Baltimore Ravens, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, these teams that have been good for a while, maybe take Buffalo out. They've had a rough stretch, different places with the back end of the first round. But these teams don't always have the top picks in the draft to keep their roster good. They're just good at drafting. It's not about having great picks. Now, I'm not saying that you don't want to have more bites at the apple, swings at the pinata, whatever metaphor that you want to make for it. The more that you have, and the Titans want to do that. But the truth is, what's more important is being good at picking. So the reality is, whether the Titans get the first overall pick, trade back, do that, Mike Borgonzi being good is what matters. And if Mike Borgonzi is good at picking players, then whether the Titans get a trade back or they don't get a trade back, they're going to turn things around, because he's good at picking players. And they're going to have good premium picks in multiple rounds to do that. So that's what really matters at the end of the day. So I'm just saying, in another roundabout way to kind of break it down, it's okay to enjoy the wins. Just remember what really matters. And we will see what happens as things play out. But in that win, the Tennessee Titans dominated Myles Garrett. I broke down the tape, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the game plan was that got it done. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL Sundays move fast. Got to keep your head on a swivel. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes FanDuel's live betting so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time with FanDuel. You can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum completely flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads, money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Live betting the Titans to punt throughout the season on offense, it's been hard for me to turn down. Look, it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, make sure that you visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. It's FanDuel. The game moves fast, but so can you. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about why the Titans must pick better more than they need better picks, and that's why I'm enjoying the victory and not freaking out over draft position. Now I want to dive into the film and talk about what I saw from the Tennessee Titans in this game. They absolutely clamped Myles Garrett, and it was very impressive from the Titans offensive coaching staff, which is something that I have not said very often in the last two seasons. So got to give credit where it's due to Mike McCoy, Bo Hardegree for what their plan was, what their design was, some of the little details and wrinkles that they used. I'm going to break it all down to you guys. I'm going to have a film breakdown out on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel showing you exactly what they were doing with the plays and everything like that. But very impressive game plan. Before I break it down, thanks again for making Locked On Titans your first listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. But Myles Garrett had one of his worst games of his NFL career. Yes, he got the one sack, which in reality, I think should be a half sack. I think number 91, his teammate, Alex Lewis, was the guy who should get more credit for that play, who kind of blew it up at first and pushed the guy into Myles Garrett. But nonetheless, he had one sack, and that was the only pressure that was registered according to Pro Football Focus. He had a pass rush win rate in the game of like 4%, his second lowest of his NFL career. This was his worst game of the season. He was able to make some moves and do some things, and I thought at times he might be able to get some pressure, but he just wasn't able to, and credit to the Tennessee Titans offensive game plan, which I thought was their best game plan of the season tailored to a player. And you look at what they were able to do. Number one, the run game. The run game obviously had to be used against Myles Garrett. You had to find a way to not live in long third down situations where he could pin his ears back over and over, in second and long situations. If the Titans didn't run the football, probably wasn't a good chance that they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to be able to win the football, which is why I thought the Browns would win the game. But the way that they did it, they used Myles Garrett's aggressiveness against him. It's like something I always compare is judo. In judo, you use your opponent's weight against them to flip them around. I didn't do martial arts or anything like that, but just the little, I've had discussions and things like different ways that they used Myles Garrett's aggressiveness against him. He likes to get upfield, and the Cleveland Browns love to use wide formations. That's a Jim Schwartz, their defensive coordinator, former coach with the Titans. That's a staple of his. Very wide defensive front. He likes the defensive ends out super wide, four-man fronts, and that leaves a lot of space. So what the Titans did was, when they were super wide like that, the Titans would just run simple inside zone handoffs. Tony Pollard's second touchdown of the day is a simple inside zone handoff out of shotgun. But because the defensive end is so wide, Myles Garrett is so wide to the play side, Dan Moore can simply, or it was Ali Udoh who was in at the time, but Ali Udoh could simply just kick Myles Garrett out and run him up the field. That's where he wants to go. So Myles Garrett darts off of the line of scrimmage, gets upfield, and Ali Udoh just rides with him. He doesn't got to drive him anywhere. He doesn't got to move him. He doesn't got to do anything special. Just make sure that he doesn't get through your body. Just stay in front of him and just let him ride up. And the Titans hand it off, and the running back runs right underneath him into the B gap. And that leaves Peter Skoronski one-on-one with a leverage block on a defensive tackle, and then Corey Levin one-on-one with a linebacker. Or if the front were flipped, Corey Levin would be able to be one-on-one, and then Peter Skoronski gets up free access to a linebacker. They used motion from the side they were running to the backside and moved the Browns' second-level linebackers, and it created even more math advantages. 3-on-3, offensive lineman versus the running back versus the defense. That's great math. That is great math. You want that math. So that was impressive. They did that 4 or 5 times where Myles Garrett screamed upfield and the Titans just did a simple handoff inside zone right behind him. And because they used the motion to shift the defense, so many good advantageous situations that they took care of to make sure that they were able to run the ball. And then the other side of it, the perimeter runs. Something that you had to notice on TV if you were watching the game at the time. The Titans consistently attacked the perimeter with pullers out to the outside. And the reason that they were doing that is because, again, Myles Garrett likes to scream upfield. So when they were in the super wide formations, the Titans could hit that inside zone and let him go upfield. But when they would be a little less wide and be in a more conventional alignment, Myles Garrett still wants to be aggressive and get up the field immediately, right? So he gets up the field immediately, and then the Titans would pin him in, and here is how they did it. This is the most impressive wrinkle of the game plan, in my opinion. So the Titans would use multi-tight end sets, something we talked about them doing before the game. They'd have 2 tight ends, 3 tight end sets. But one of those tight ends would be Ali Udoh, and this is when Dan Moore was healthy and in the game. So Ali Udoh would not only be an extra tight end, and right now, if the Titans have 6 offensive linemen in the game and a tight end like Gunnar Helm, is Gunnar Helm or Ali Udoh more likely to be lined up next to the offensive tackle? Yes. That is how you typically see it. When teams go 6 offensive linemen, it's all of the 6 offensive linemen next to each other. But what the Titans were doing is they were having Gunnar Helm next to the offensive tackle, and then they were having Ali Udoh as the outside tight end. So what happened was when the Browns, who have their front wider than normal, they would have Myles Garrett wide, but he would be basically in between Gunnar Helm and Ali Udoh. And instead of having Chigakonkwo, David Martin Robinson, or flipping that and having Ali Udoh inside and then Gunnar Helm on the outside, instead of having one of the tight ends on the outside, having to pin Myles Garrett inside one-on-one and win a one-on-one battle with Myles Garrett, they had Ali Udoh, the offensive tackle, be that guy and be on the outside. So Ali Udoh would pin in Myles Garrett. And then Dan Moore, Kevin Zeitler, Corey Levin, Peter Skoronski, whatever combination of 2 guys that the Titans were using at the time, they could then pull out to the perimeter and not have to worry about Myles Garrett wrecking the play. If you have a tight end out there doing that, Myles Garrett might whoop him. But the Titans flipped what you would normally see and had their extra offensive lineman as the outside tight end. Brilliant. Brilliant. And then you were able to pin in, and that's the Tony Pollard 65-yard touchdown. They pin Myles Garrett in. They pull Kevin Zeitler and Corey Levin around. Gunnar Helm, because he's inside of Myles Garrett, is able to slide past Myles Garrett and get up to a linebacker with free access. All while Myles Garrett is rushing up the field with aggressiveness, and Ali Udoh just has to block him in because it's a perimeter run to the outside. They ran that play 4 or 5 times to go along with the 4 or 5 inside zones that I talked about earlier, where they rushed him up the field and cut inside of him. So whether they were able to pin him in and rush him up and then go around, or whether they were able to pin him up and out and go inside, they had it totally figured out. It was a fantastic game plan. And that's just the run game. In the passing game, 3 things that really stood out. Chips, screens, boots. They chipped Myles Garrett, and Alec Iomanner destroyed Myles Garrett on the last touchdown throw for Cam Ward to DK. Right before that, Cam Ward hit a pass to Chim DK underneath in the red zone to get about 5 yards and move it forward before the touchdown. On that play, Alec Iomanner destroyed Myles Garrett with a chip. You got to send chip help. It wasn't as much as I expected, and I'll tell you why. But Chigakonkwo had like 2 or 3 chips. Gunnar Helm had a chip in there. Tajay Spears had a couple of chips. But it wasn't as much as I expected. But there were chips in there that helped. The screen game, the Titans ran 4 or 5 screens with about 2 or 3 of them being productive. One of them was a backward pass, the one to Tajay, but I'm calling that a screen. Whatever. And then boots. The Titans ran about 3 or 4 boots, but the Browns were ready basically every single time. Only one of them, to Van Jefferson, I think turned into a completion. The Browns were super ready for the boots. But the Titans clearly used all of these little wrinkles to attack Myles Garrett and make sure that he couldn't ruin the game. But here's one last thing that I want to point out to you. The Titans ran 66 plays. Do you know how many of those plays were just a classic drop back pass? 11. 1/6 of the Titans' offensive plays were just a regular drop back pass, a true pass set for an offensive lineman, where you're literally just regular pass protection. Everything else was a run, a screen, a boot, play action, something, a designed rollout where the offensive line slides away and Cam Ward rolls away from Myles Garrett even without play action. Like the Titans really had a super schemed up playbook. And you guys know, I have complained all year long that when the Titans run their schemed up plays, when the Titans try to get overly fancy on offense, they blow it. So not only did they not blow it, and there were some bad plays in there that were the schemed up variety, some of that orbit motion from Chim DK and stuff like that. But generally speaking, credit where it's due. For the Titans coaching staff to decide to do deliberate things to attack a defense, and for those things to actually work, not just because the players all of a sudden executed and the Titans all of a sudden played way better than they ever play and everybody had a better game all at once, but it's because what the Titans' game plan actually was, what the coaching staff deliberately was trying to do, was actually smart. It was actually right. It was very, broke clock is right twice a day, right? Maybe it's a sign to come and they have better game plans going forward and more clear and obvious direction, but they really pared this thing down. They really had a very structured plan of what to do. They did not deviate outside of it. They kept to that plan no matter what, and it wasn't pretty at all times, but you got to give credit where it's due. A really excellent game plan from Mike McCoy, Randy Travis, Bo Hardigree calling the plays. Randy Travis. That's hilarious. Country singer. Anyways, but overall, the Titans dominated Myles Garrett in this game, one of the worst games of his career. And with the Titans' run game being the worst in the NFL, the Titans giving up the most sacks in the NFL so far, to come in and put together that performance, great job by the coaching staff and great job by the players. But with that being said, let's go to the other side of the ball where, folks, Kevin Winston bounced back. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, $180 for 12 months. Plan required $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage vary. See mintmobile.com. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down the Tennessee Titans win over the Cleveland Browns. We talked about why the Titans need to pick better in the draft more than they need better picks, so let's not freak out about draft positioning all that much. We need Mike Borgonzi to be good. We talked about how the Tennessee Titans clamped down Myles Garrett with their offensive game plan, both in the run game and in the pass game. And then finally, I want to talk about Kevin Winston, Jeffery Simmons, Marcus Harris, some of the standouts on defense, some of the things that I saw on tape. Before we finish, thanks again for making Locked On Titans your first listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. With that being said, though, Kevin Winston struggled last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off a couple of really good performances. Before that, very similar to Cam Ward. It's hilarious. Kevin Winston played a couple of really good games, made some good plays. It was pretty impressive. Cam Ward played 2 pretty good games against the Texans and the Jags. Pretty impressive. And then both struggled against the Texans and the Seahawks. And then both struggled against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, in this game, Kevin Winston bounced back in a major way. And I remember all of you knuckleheads out there saying, oh, Kevin Winston's a bust. See, we wasted all our picks. There's a crybaby. And so reactionary. Just so, hey, this guy was bad in this game, he's bad. Oh, next week he plays good, he's great again. Just back and forth, seesawing all the time. Kevin Winston is going to be a good player. And Kevin Winston was awesome in this game. Highest graded Tennessee Titans player according to Pro Football Focus grades. And then I go and I watch the tape and I'm like, oh, wow, I see why. He does so many different things well. First, you see him, he's up there as a normal safety, a post safety in a single high look, playing deep safety. You'll see him in a 2 high safety look. He's playing cover 2 and playing a deep half. Or he'll roll down as a hook defender. Or he'll roll down to the curl flat out to the sideline underneath the deep third cornerback. He'll come down to the line of scrimmage and rush, and he's getting multiple pressures and getting quarterback hits and getting his hands up and forcing incompletions and getting pressure. I mean, he's gotten sacks and made tackles for loss defending in the run game, blitzing around the line of scrimmage. And then he's also able to play big nickel and play in the slot. And when he played man coverage in this game, I was so impressed. So he's playing deep post safety and zone. He's playing 2 high safety, rolling down, rolling back. He's on the line of scrimmage, pressuring, blitzing, getting involved in run defense. He's playing big nickel in the slot, playing man coverage or hard flats or blitzing off the slot. He played man coverage against Jerry Jeudy in this game in the red zone, locked him up. He chased crossers across the field. He is so fast. Again, on the screen to Quinshawn Judkins. He got beat. He came up. It was his man. He got blocked. He got moved out of the play, but he didn't stop. He kept chasing. And as Xavier Woods, combat boots, running in the sand, gets passed by Quinshawn Judkins, Kevin Winston catches him. So fast, so long, so physical. To be that combination. And he would have been a 2nd-round pick at minimum. Some people say maybe a late first. I think that's only if he would have played out the year. But regardless, the injury, he would have been taken even high. And the worry was the injury. And now that he's back from injury and he's getting reps and he's banking mental opportunities and he's seeing things, one of the big things for Kevin Winston is, and he missed out on most of a year of college football, which is going to amplify this issue even more. The biggest issue with Kevin Winston was route recognition in college. He would be out in zones and he's fast and he's big and he's physical and he can use his long arms to knock away passes. He got a PBU against the Browns as well. He can do all of that, but just the game's slowing down a bit. Him recognizing, oh, I've seen this route concept before. The deep crosser is coming at me. I'm going to pick it up and run with it. Oh, okay, I'm playing the curl flat over here on the right-hand sideline, but they're going to use the 1 to run a little outside skinny post. I'm going to sink underneath of it and take away that passing lane. Even though I have outside responsibility, there's no one out here. I see number 1 running vertical on a potential post. I'm going to sink underneath it so that the quarterback can't come to the backside read. recognizing that type of stuff, especially back in the deep end. That's where he needed to improve. And he took big steps in this game. He was so good in coverage. So good in coverage. And in the past couple of games, I thought he could slide into a window to prevent a throw. I thought he could jump quicker to notice a route and match a route, different things like that. And it got him beat against Jacksonville multiple times. He got decisions wrong on which route to match in cover 4. He got lost and, kind of just wasn't paying attention on the Jacoby Myers slant touchdown, even after Marcus Harris pointed at it and said, bro, he's coming. He still just kind of late on it to recognize that it was coming right at him. So that's something that's going to improve rapidly for Kevin Winston. And he did a lot of that in this game, along with all of those other different varieties of things that he was able to do. It was so incredibly impressive. Again, probably the Tennessee Titans' best player outside of Jeffery Simmons. And Jeffery Simmons, what an animal. 11 pressures in this game. I saw Jim Wyatt tweet. It's a career high for Jeffery Simmons. He was amazing. 1.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. The tackle for loss he had, look, I'm not trying to be crass or rude, and I hope for a quick improvement or a quick heal for Ethan Posich. I wanted him in free agency a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly which offseason it was, but he was a good option. I think it was the Lloyd Cushenberry offseason. I was like, hey, if they go cheaper, I like Posich on a bargain deal. Jeffery Simmons forklift him into the backfield, not only destroyed the running back, but he hurt him, and hurt him bad. He's out for the rest of the season. Simmons is a freak, man. Having just an incredible year. He better be an all-pro. I know the Titans are bad, but he better be an all-pro. And the last thing I leave you with is Marcus Harris. Marcus Harris was the 3rd highest graded Tennessee Titan according to Pro Football Focus. Only gave up 1 completion for 14 yards, targeted twice. Sticky coverage in the slot. Marcus Harris, folks. Marcus Harris is a real answer next year. The Titans don't need 3 starting cornerbacks next year. They need 2. They need 2 outside corners because Marcus Harris and then Kevin Winston is a big nickel option, which we'll see if the next defensive coordinator for the Titans with the new head coach that they hire, we'll see what their scheme is and if that's relevant or not. But I would bet they would make it relevant because Winston is so good at that type of role and being that close to the line of scrimmage and good in run defense. You would have to have him in that role. But they have Marcus Harris and they have Kevin Winston who can tag team that slot position on early downs and pass downs. And I think that's a real answer for them going forward. But again, I'll have a film breakdown later this week on Kevin Winston and Marcus Harris and their performance in this game, along with my breakdown on how the Tennessee Titans dominated Myles Garrett. Make sure you check out the Tic Tac Titans film channel. Make sure you get subscribed. Stay subscribed to Locked On Titans. It's your team every day. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.